Oh, you can send it to me today. Yeah. Okay. Good. Did we get an answer on the legal issues on these? What would the answer? No, I know that. I'm sorry. Holly was supposed to get a legal opinion on whether or not the stretch code would affect the open time, and you can rebid the project without. Okay. Good. No. Right. What was the other one? Yeah. Okay. So we got that, and there's another reason that legal reason. Oh, yeah. He's going to say also that it won't affect his ability to get a claim against Apple. Yes. Okay. Good. Because that's the only thing I listen to everybody. These things that I find out. That's looks like the only thing. Yeah. Yeah. I think. Right. That's right. I can lose it. Because I did calls, so it's not even that get confused. That happened the first time we had this. It's not it's how people need to get some of this stuff. And you see, no one understood that was how it was moving. Could be. It's good. All right. Okay, have a nice day. Okay. Town meeting members, please be in order. Can you hear me all right up back? Can you hear me all right? Good. Would everybody please rise? Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin this important session of the fall town meeting, let us look at these important projects, the new collective bargaining agreements, and the expenditures authorized in prior town meetings. And let us remember to listen to all presenters with a balanced ear. Thank you very much. I understand I have an echo. Up back. Sir, up back. I've got an echo. They're hearing me twice. You're out of order. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello? Hello? This one's working. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me out there at all? Testing 1, 2, 3. Second echo? Echo. Pardon? No echo? Yes, no echo. Yeah. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not bad. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, let me give you a summary of where we're going. We're going to start with Article 3, which is collective bargaining. And that will be followed by Article 12, which is the Vincent Owen School project. And then Article 13, which is the high school project. And after that will be the stretch code. And then there are 2 articles to hear committees report. This is an important meeting for the town. There's a lot of issues that come together on the Articles 12 and 13. And so our first article, moving to Article 3, to see if the town will act on the report of the Personnel Board. And ladies and gentlemen, at this time, let me introduce the chairman of the Personnel Board, Mr. Yu.
Good evening. Good evening.
Up back, this mic isn't working down here.
Is it working? I don't know. It was working.
Test, test. Now you have to speak.
Okay, that's better. Okay. Personnel Article 3. The Personnel Board is presenting to the town meeting this evening the results of much hard work to settle the main municipal contracts. The Personnel Board has reviewed the following MOUs for the municipal and school union contracts, as well as the non-union wage adjustments that are before you this evening. The Personnel Board recommends favorable action on these motions. It is important to note the passage of these contracts will resolve the grievances and unfair labor practice charges that have been filed by the unions as a result of the healthcare plan design changes on July 1st, 2010. It is additionally important to realize the contracts represent a modest wage adjustment as Winchester is compared to other comparable communities. Mr. Howley, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, will be presented motions under this article and a summary of the town's financial position. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me, folks, all right? No. I think that we should take a break. We have a lot of important stuff to go over tonight, and if these mics aren't working, we're going to have to postpone for another night because this would be impossible. So why don't we take a 10-minute break here while the staff tries to figure this out. Sorry for the problem. Nice presentation, Bob. No. Discretionary emotions different. I think it's incorrect. So here's what the motion is going to be.
Okay.
Moved and seconded at the town meeting.
Yeah, that's
And it's a state building called stretch it, called stretch it.
yeah.
Don't be afraid to get ready. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Testing 1 2 testing 1 2.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
These should be testing 1 2. Testing. That doesn't make any sense.
3, 2, 1, 4. We better.
Check, 1, 2, check.
1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can hear me. Let's see if you can hear Mr. Howley. That's good. Yeah. Try it again, Tom.
Yes.
There we go.
There we go.
Try that.
I wanted to put
Testing 1, 2, 3. Tom, go ahead.
Test. Yeah, that one's working.
testing 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, I don't know what you...
That's right. I'll tell him what it is.
Yes. Are you ready, Tom? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the town meeting will now be in order. Can everybody hear all right? Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Howley is going to be the main proponent, and he's going to be speaking on motions 1 through 9. I'm sorry, 1 through 9. And those motions are all municipal. He will speak on all of them together. And then the Finance Committee will be asked for their recommendation. And hearing that, then we will take them up one motion at a time. We have to vote each motion separately. So the chair recognizes Mr. Howley, and as the main proponent, he has 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Our board, the Board of Selectmen, unanimously recommends your approval of all 10 municipal and school wage adjustment motions under Article 3. In the Board of Selectmen's report to you on the first night of town meeting, We said that the operating and capital requests that you will consider and the ideas that we will discuss during this town meeting are essential, not only for the development of a comprehensive multi-year financial plan, but to protecting those things which distinguish Winchester and that we value the most as a community. As part of this town meeting's warrant, you already have approved cost reductions and revenue enhancements to balance the FY11 budget, invested in planning for our town center to create a vibrant retail area and to grow our tax base. You have strengthened our zoning bylaw and made investments to make needed repairs in our facilities. As part of our discussions and in our written communication to you, the town's senior management and the board estimated the fiscal year 12 deficit that we will need to address, the amount of free cash we will need to use to cover wage adjustments, and the operating reserves we will then need to restore. And so now our work continues. Tonight we will ask that you authorize the completion of all outstanding collective bargaining agreements, and under subsequent articles, we will ask that you allow the voters to consider funding the replacement of a badly deteriorated and overcrowded elementary school, and we will ask that you approve the funding that will allow us to understand our options for restoring a badly deteriorated and overcrowded high school. I hope my remarks will be useful to you in understanding how each of these decisions is linked. Now the personnel motions. The last agreement that we had in place with our firefighters expired June 30th of 2007. All other municipal employee agreements have been open since July of 2009. Bringing closure to these contracts, together with the school contracts for fiscal year 11s through 13, has been the highest priority of our board. With your approval this evening, all of our school and municipal collective bargaining agreements will be in place through fiscal year 13. The question the board asked when we began this effort to get our contracts up to date, and that we must ask this evening, is why should we agree to any wage adjustments in this economy and with a projected $2.9 million deficit in fiscal year 12? In spite of the economy and the operating deficit that we will address, we believe that the wage adjustments in the school and municipal agreements that are before you this evening are not only appropriate for our employees, they are necessary for the town's proper financial management. Let me give you a few reasons why our board and senior management have reached that conclusion, reasons that we would like you to consider. If we do not make our own decisions regarding these wage adjustments, the legally required mediation and arbitration process will make them for us. We believe that this will result in a higher cost and with a loss of employee morale. The approval of the proposed agreements is a necessary component for maintaining our AAA bond rating, and that rating will have a direct effect on the cost of all future capital projects, such as the replacement of the Vincent Owen and the eventual restoration of the high school. The approval of these agreements will avoid substantial insurance cost increases during fiscal year 11 through 13 and remove any possibility that the earlier insurance plan changes that we unilaterally made in 2007 would be undone. And finally, we strongly believe, and I know this is more difficult to measure, that the stability the new agreements will provide over the next 3 years in our relationship with our municipal and school employees will be necessary for the discussions we must have and the decisions we must make to implement further cost reductions, reorganizations, and greater efficiency. I'd like to talk to you about a few of those items in more detail, particularly the public collective bargaining requirements for our negotiations. I'm sure that all of us appreciate the extraordinary quality and of the municipal and educational services we enjoy in Winchester as a result of the hard work of our municipal employees and teachers, and that there are many of us who believe it is appropriate that our employees receive some appropriate wage adjustment. But within this economy and with the town's financial challenges, this is not what guided our negotiations. And as important as health insurance cost avoidance is that these agreements achieve for us, and I will speak about that in a moment, to only focus on that or to think that we could capture those savings and avoid any wage adjustments is not to understand the legal framework in which the public collective bargaining agreements we recommend to you this evening are negotiated. It is very important that we understand that if we do not approve the agreements we have reached on our municipal contracts, senior management and our board do not have the option of simply refusing to give any wage adjustments. we will be required to resolve the amount of any wage adjustments through mediation and binding arbitration. This is the law with regards to public sector employment in Massachusetts. Unlike private companies that can make wage decisions unilaterally, we do not have the legal authority to simply refuse to discuss wage adjustments. And given that reality, it is the belief of senior management, our board, and the outside labor council we engage that in mediation and arbitration, we would do no better than the wage adjustments we ask you to approve this evening. And there is a very real risk that if we concede this decision to someone else, we will do worse. Wade can speak to this further, but in determining an appropriate wage adjustment, the mediator or arbitrator will look to the agreements reached by other cities and towns. And in the case of our firefighter contracts for fiscal years 2008 and 9, the most likely comparable will be the wage adjustment town meeting awarded to our own police department during that same period. I'd like to show you some information that help guide our negotiating strategy. Now, there's a lot of information up there. It might be helpful to gravitate down towards the bottom and to the average, and then you can sort of jump around a little bit. But what this chart attempts to do is compare the wage adjustments agreed to by several other towns. You'll see the town names that we were able to obtain along the left-hand column. The percentage that you see is each town's average wage adjustment across all school and municipal bargaining units for which information was available. At the bottom, you see the average wage adjustment for all towns for which we had the information, and then the average wage adjustment for the agreements which we are recommending to you. So you'll see in fiscal year 10, the average was 1.9, and then 1.9 again, and then 2 and 12 and 13, no settlement information that we've received yet. In Winchester, you'll see that the 1.9 in fiscal year 10 compares to 0.4. In 11, the 1.9 compares to 0.5, and in 12, the 2% compares to 1.6. The wage adjustments we are recommending to you this evening compare favorably to the adjustments given by other towns. And since these are the adjustments, that is for the other towns, that an arbitrator would consider in reaching a decision, we believe that the proposed settlements deserve your approval this evening. Before I talk about health insurance, I want to focus briefly on the wage adjustment we are asking you to approve for the firefighters. It is the largest. It is a very large number. Over the past several months, as senior management worked to get our collective bargaining with our employees back on track, it was discovered that the budgets that had been presented to our board, the Finance Committee, and to town meeting did not adequately reserve for the compounding effects of the fiscal year 2008 and 2009 offers to the firefighters that the former town manager had on the table, those offers being essentially the same amounts that the firefighters have now agreed to. This is not as it should have been. It is certainly not convenient now to discover that the anticipated wage adjustments were not properly reserved. In fact, 96% of the firefighters' settlement costs is a result of this accumulative, retroactive deficiency. But it is a fact that we must acknowledge and squarely address, and the proposed firefighters' wage adjustment does that. So one risk we eliminate by approving the recommended wage adjustments is that we do not allow a mediator or an arbitrator to make that decision for us and possibly to make a worse decision than the one we have been able to negotiate. There is another risk we are eliminating as well. The fiscal year 11 budget reflects an estimated $920,000 in medical insurance cost avoidance. That is built into our fiscal year 11 budget. After certain reimbursements to hold some employees harmless, the net cost avoidance is approximately $838,000 in fiscal year 11 for active and retired employees. This was achieved through plan changes and adjustments in contribution rates that the town unilaterally implemented on July 1st, after we had reached impasse in our good faith negotiation with the unions. As the result of the action we took, each union has filed a grievance. Although we believe we would prevail in the required health insurance mediation and binding arbitration process, this is a separate process from the wage adjustment mediation we go through.
Excuse me, Mr. Howley, your time, 10 minutes has expired. How much time do you need, sir?
If I could have another 5 minutes, please.
It's moved and seconded. Speaker's time be extended 5 minutes. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Howley.
As I was saying, as a result of the action we took, each union filed a grievance. Although we believe we would prevail in the required health insurance, mediation, and binding arbitration process, our action and strategy was innovative, and the outcome cannot be said to be certain. The agreements we are asking you to approve this evening withdraw all grievances related to the health insurance changes we made, eliminating the risk of incurring an $838,000 charge to the fiscal year 11 budget. By approving the Article 3 motions this evening, we also avoid the legal costs we would incur through the required mediation and binding arbitration process. It has been estimated that these costs could be between $100,000 and $150,000. And I will say that if you recall, in 2007, the town also unilaterally initiated changes in our health plans. Although we have successfully navigated that since, these agreements will provide for the fact that that question cannot be revisited, and it will remove that risk, which dates back several years, from the table. I also want to note that lowering our base medical insurance costs in fiscal year 11 and through plan design changes and adjustment in contribution rates will increase in value in fiscal year 12 and beyond. And so when viewed in the context of the risk of a higher wage adjustment through mediation and arbitration, something we would not be able to avoid, and the immediate and long-term value of the plan changes and the higher employee contribution rates of our school and municipal employees, we think the wage adjustments deserve your approval. I now want to look ahead just a little bit, and I think it's a fair question to ask, what is the financial impact on Winchester's taxpayers? In fact, what is the tax impact if these wage adjustments are taken together with the capital projects that we are recommending and the further cost reductions and operating override that we need to anticipate to build back our operating reserves closer to the 10% target, AAA target, and to preserve the services in doing so that we value? What will the impact be on the taxpayers? I'll try to help with this. I know that's small. This is a chart which on the very left-hand side shows the, by fiscal year, shows the annual real estate tax as escalating by 2.5%. And it's based on average assessed value of $762,000. I believe town meeting has received a report by Mr. Giller, which has been very helpful to our board. The Finance Committee has also taken a crack at this, and the selectmen have been working on this ourselves, and think that the work that everyone has done, Mr. Giller, the Finance Committee, is all extremely helpful. We should all be aware of it. The next column from the left shows the existing tax bill for an average assessed home. Then what we do is we add in the tax impact if the voters were in fact to approve the Parkhurst School at, I believe, $18 million, or the high school at approximately $54 million. And if the voters were then to approve an operating override of approximately $1.7 million. Now, I have to say that we have not reached that conclusion yet, but it does seem to be that in the next couple weeks we are going to have to really squarely address all of the information that we've been presented here and arrive at a number that we think is the right one. So for tonight's discussion, $1.7 million. And it then shows the total tax bill. I won't run through the numbers, but you can see the effect beginning in fiscal year 12. The tax bill of the average assessed home as compared to the existing tax bill would go up 5.03% in 12. It would go up 4.95% over the existing bill that would otherwise be presented. And then when the high school would come in, which would be in fiscal year 14, you then see a larger jump, 6.19, 9.88, almost 10% impact over the otherwise existing and escalating tax bill that people would have. So I think it's important to understand that the decisions we make have very, very real consequences. I know we all know that. And we believe that after approving the recommended wage adjustments,
Go ahead and finish up, sir.
after approving the recommended wage adjustments, the voters should have the opportunity to decide what costs they believe are appropriate to pay for services and for facilities that they want and are delivered as cost effectively as possible. For our part, we will be clear and as authentic as we can about what the costs of those decisions will be, and we will manage the town as effectively as we possibly can to earn their support. So in the end, all of the decisions that are before us are connected. The wage adjustments, the decision regarding Vincent Owen, other future capital projects, and the operating deficit, each of these do not stand alone. If Winchester's voters decide to fund a new Vincent Owen Elementary School, we will go out to the bond market, and this will result in a financial review by Moody's to determine whether we continue to merit a AAA bond rating and the lower interest rate that it provides. When that review takes place, one of the items that will be considered by the rating agency is the status of our collective bargaining agreements. Another will be our plan for eliminating our operating deficit. And so for Winchester's future, and as one part of our overall financial management, our board strongly urges you to approve all 10 wage adjustment motions before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The question comes on the first motion, which is on page 1, ladies and gentlemen. Before I take comments, it's moved and seconded that Schedule 9 of the compensation plan be accepted in accordance with the recommendations of the Personnel Board, and that's for the Police Superior Officers Association. And that reads just like it is on page 1. That's the first motion. We're taking them one union at a time, and the chair recognizes Peter Scheimitz and requests a recommendation from the Finance Committee.
I'm going to speak to all, I think it's 15 motions, or 11 motions. I'm going to speak to all 11 motions at once, so I don't have to get up and get down. As you can see behind me, the Finance Committee has recommended unfavorable action on all of the motions except the 2 retroactive motions for the firefighters, for which we at the board level have tabled, and we're probably going to ask for a definite postponement to the end of this evening, and I will discuss that as I go along. Okay, I think it's that button? No, which button? Okay. No, not that one. How about this? Okay. All right. First of all, there was an ocean of numbers that we've been looking over in the last couple of weeks, and as the FinCom needed to triage this, we decided to focus essentially on the numbers that related to the annual wage adjustment, or COLA, in the overall set of contracts. We also decided to aggregate all the contracts, in spite of the fact that there were 0.1% differences between them, and there are times that they kicked in were different from one to the next. We aggregated them. We took them as a group, and we did minimal review on the retroactive portions of the contract. The firefighters contract, which we were able to review tonight, we were actually able to review the details of it tonight. We found 2 issues which caused us not to vote on that, and those issues were, and once we get these straightened out, we will actually take a vote. But one was that. One was that in paying for this, we noticed that there appears to be FY11 unallocated wages that are used for a contract that is closing in FY10. So we're not too sure about that. And the other is that we understand that the formula for this contract was the policeman's contract in a given year, but we noticed that the firefighters' contract were getting a full 1% more than the policeman in each given year. So once those issues are ironed out, I'm sure we'll be able to come to some recommendation on those. In order to, as I said, we aggregated the contract and we looked at its overall cost over time. And these are the numbers that we were able to bring out. And again, these represent only the COLA portion of the contracts. They do not include they do not include payments that will be paid out by the town, increases in wages that we expect that are in this contract but did not change from previous contracts. So examples are step and column changes for which there's $600,000 worth of increases in salary for this year, and Quinn bill changes for what we believe to be about $300,000 worth of payments out this year. As I said, we focused mainly on the overall cost, which is a couple $100,000, $225,000 this year, $500,000 or roughly $500,000 in FY12, and $118,000 in FY13. $819,000. So our understanding, and this has been restated, for the reasons that these contracts were negotiated, was to remove the cloud of union action against the changes in the health care that were put in unilaterally in July 1st, and stability for long-term planning. And these were the ground rules that we used to judge the contracts. So in order to do that, we broke down the health care savings that resulted from both plan design changes and contribution changes over the next 3 years. And having broken those savings down, we split them up into those savings that went to active employees and those savings that went to retirees. And we did that because we felt it was only fair to judge the changes in cost that we were seeing as a contract against the payments of the savings that we were getting from active employees, since there was nothing to balance out what we were actually paying the retirees. And just to a note, this includes changes, but it also includes a small budget that's placed. I think it's an $82,000 budget that's placed in each year to cover holding the active employees harmless for various plan changes of things that they used to have. When we then took the cost of the contract and we took the savings from the health care, we subtracted that of the cost of the contract year over year. I'd say about 7 more minutes.
Moved and seconded, the speaker's time be extended 7 minutes. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries.
And as you can see, this contract appears to be net positive in a given year, only this year. And after that, within a given year, the contract results in a net loss, and cumulative over time, that it's net positive through FY12, and then at the finish of the contract, FY13, you see that we are in fact at quite a net loss. Now, I've added FY14, and FY14 has been added. And again, this is kind of a detail, but it's been added because of the anomalistic ways in which the raises are given. Some of these raises are given mid-year, which has the effect of applying a raise or virtual raise at the beginning of FY14. So in order to look, so if there were no additional contract given in F14, the effects of this contract would extend into FY14. All right. So we said, all right, well, this doesn't look that good. So what would be an alternative approach? And so we asked ourselves the question, would there be a plan that would allow us to get a long-term stability, some acceptance of the health plan, would avoid the need of an immediate override, and would not trade uncontrolled health cost growth for unsustained earning growth, and still and stayed away from what we felt were living adjustments which were not justified in the present economy. What we did is we came up with a hypothetical plan, and I want to make it very clear that the numbers you are about to see do not exist in any contract, okay? So anybody who fell asleep a few minutes ago and is opening their eyes now, do not believe that what you're about to look at is the contract you're about to vote on. All right, so what we decided to do is we said, okay, if it's a hypothetical plan and I don't have anybody across the table negotiating with me, then I will offer them what we thought was a standard of fairness that would at least be a good starting point. And that is, whatever savings that we made in the health care plan, we split 50-50 with the employees. So that was the plan. This is the cost of the plan. So the numbers you're looking at are the hypothetical increases, or the increases in the hypothetical plan over this year. So it would be about $230,000. First year, $283,000 over this year. In the second year, $339,000 in the third year over this year, for a total cost of this contract, this hypothetical contract, of $849,000. When comparing our hypothetical contract our hypothetical contract to the known cost of health care, as you can see, it's positive in each year and largely net positive on a cumulative basis. All right, so the conclusion is that we feel that that this is a far too expensive proposition, it's far more expensive than the town can afford. It fails to really meet the objective of controlling costs, because you've ended up trading your uncontrolled health care costs for growing wages with no net savings, even far before the contract runs out. We've traded, and for long-term stability, we have traded the uncertainty of unnegotiated contracts with the uncertainty of an override. And worse, if we pass these contracts and don't get the override, we're looking at the real possibility of service cuts and layoffs. And finally, we feel that there are alternatives to this budget approach. This alternative that we present here looks very much like what Lexington has recently adopted, and served as part of the basis of how we generated these set of numbers.
Further on the question? Any response from the board? Mr. Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. 22 years ago, when I became your town council, my predecessor, Doug Randall, told me, Wade, do not get involved in labor negotiations. It is the third rail of town councils. So, for 22 years, I never did. But this spring, the Board of Selectmen asked me to get involved with the town management team, and I want to tell you who they were. Chief Albertelli, who was here, Chief Nash, who was here, Ed Grant, the DPW director, my labor counsel from Morgan, Brown, and Joy, but that's Bob Joy's firm, for those of you, Mike Lahane from Mercy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lahane, and Bob Masilli for Jackson Lewis, Mary Ellen Lannon, Mark Toogood, and scrubbing the numbers on health insurance, Kem Lombardi and Brian Keveney. So that's the background. And what was my role? Basically, I was the honest zebra, the fast zebra. What I did was I brought commentary, legal, financial, and management options between the consultants and the Board of Selectmen. So that's the background which I stand before you tonight. First, you have to understand the context of these negotiations. There are two types of negotiations involved here tonight. The first are the public safety negotiations, police seniors, and fire. That goes through Joint Labor Management Committee. All others go, and this includes the schools, all other goes before the Division of Labor Relations. The key difference is when you're going to Joint Labor Management, you have a concept called binding arbitration, and we're going to Division of Labor Relations, there's fact-finding that is not binding. Which brings me to the legal issue that you are going to deal with tonight. The legal issue for this town meeting is whether or not it will fund the incremental cost of this agreement. In other words, are you going to provide the necessary monies to make these agreements become binding on the town? I would say at the outset that all of these agreements are recommended unanimously by the town management team and unanimously by the Board of Selectmen, and all of these contracts tonight were in the mediation process when we began. Now, if the town meeting rejects the funding and the request of these tentative agreements, then the parties return to the bargaining table, and all issues are open. All issues that were on the table at the time of the mediation process are back on the table. And this includes all health insurance issues, plan design, contribution rates, and co-pays back dating several years for both police and fire. I would also note that since these are tentative agreements that failed to be funded, it's a given that either the fact-finding from labor relations or the arbitration are going to look at the last best offer, which is a tentative agreement. It's also a given that we're going to have an uphill battle at binding arbitration or at state labor relations on the health insurance issues. This is because over the last years, the town has taken a very aggressive and a novel approach to the question of whether or not the collective bargaining process limits the town's ability to enter into the health insurance contracts. We reached the conclusion that it was not. It's unlikely that either the arbitrator or the fact finder is going to agree with that, and it's possible that either the arbitrator or the fact finder could require the town to go back to the previous system. That's a rollback, ladies and gentlemen, to 2006. And the options for the town then would go to first to Superior Court and then to the Appeals Court on this part of the arbitration or state labor relations decision. So, what we're talking here is contracts that you're either going to fund or not fund. You cannot take a piece and say, oh, if we took this piece, we might have a better deal. When you go back for the whole picture. But I'd like to mention a couple of issues about, the presentation that I just heard this evening, only because I have been involved in the health insurance contracts over the past 5 years, first with Mel Kleckner and then with Mark Toogood and Mary Ellen Lannon and the Board of Selectmen. There is no savings, ladies and gentlemen. This is a cost avoidance. You're not going to have any savings because we've already taken that money when we appropriated last year. That's the fallacy here. And I have Mr. Ken Lombardi, who's here, who's been our consultant expert, and Mr. Brian Kevaney, who've scrubbed the numbers, and they're going to tell you the same thing. So, the issues here, fairness and equity, the gains achieved in the health insurance, and the importance of clearing up elements of uncertainty moving forward caused the senior town management, including myself, to unanimously recommend these settlements to the selectmen, who unanimously support them as in the best interest of the town this evening. The ultimate question on these contracts is for you this. If these contracts are rejected and the town continues with the process and the contracts obtained as a result of that process, do you believe a better or worse overall result for the town will be achieved? It is my considered legal opinion that the answer to this question, it is highly likely that the ultimate result that I'll be presenting to you in months or years down the road will be a worse result.
Thank you very much. You ready for the question? Yes, sir. Joe. Wait for the microphone.
Thank you. Just two questions and first a comment. I didn't see anything about the firefighters' contract in any information I got until tonight, and that seems to be in violation of the 7-day rule. But we can ignore that.
Well, let me comment on that because I think the town manager made that clear in the memorandum that she sent out that they were trying to get the information out. They didn't have all the details done, and it would be provided before the meeting. It's here, and if the town meeting members want to postpone that particular contract until 7 days, they can do that. That rule was meant to particularly to make committees put the work out on time for people to digest it, but when you're in collective bargaining at the last minute, I think the fire agreement was probably signed less than a week ago. So, Monday night it was said, so I hope that answers it, and if the town meeting is uncomfortable with that, we can postpone it, no problem.
Yeah, personally, I'm okay with it, but I think, as you said,
thanks for
if
bringing
people
it up.
aren't confident in this,
Yes,
there's a reason for that. And I think both Selectman Holly and the Finance Committee made a very good presentation. I think Tom's presentation pointed out that we're looking at a pretty serious jump in taxes over the next 4 to 5 years. I think if I look at both of those correctly, somewhere between the cost of these contracts by FY13, somewhere between 1.6 and maybe 1.7 million dollars, depending on how you look at it. So my first question would be, I guess, to the selectmen and maybe to town council. Why not make this vote contingent upon the successful general override of Prop 2.5? It seems to me that if tonight town meeting votes to take on these expenses, we're putting the cart before the horse, because what we do is pretty much force the voters to have to approve an override sometime down the road. My second question goes back to this healthcare savings issue, and I was wondering if we could hear a little bit more from the Finance Committee, just how they're measuring or how they're calculating the savings, because I think, as town council mentioned, we've already counted on the savings in the budget. So I'm not entirely clear how that's getting calculated. Thank you.
Mr. Shevitz, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Howley.
First, we're advised that we cannot make the contracts contingent upon a possible override. I tried to make clear in my
Excuse me, because before that, is that the end on that? Who made that recommendation? Could we hear the legal basis of that? Because this has come up, it's already been raised with me as of tonight about the same thing on the Vincent Owen School. And I don't know the answer to it, so we might as well get it on the table right away.
Yeah, the question ultimately for this town meeting, as I tried to explain the legal standard, are they willing to provide the funds necessary to bridge the gap? That's a yes or a no. It's not a maybe. And that's what I've been advised by every single one of my legal consultants, because I thought that question would come up, sir.
Well, let me see if I understand it. From a parliamentary standpoint, a motion to amend this motion to make it contingent upon the passage of an override, not for this, but a general override, I would think would be in order. And the question, are you saying that would destroy the collective bargaining agreement?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right, fine. Does that answer your question, Mr. Peters? Yep. Mr. Howley, was that the end? I didn't mean to cut you off. Mr. Shevitz.
It's not that we're taking the savings twice, which obviously it looks like. Assuming that we could hold the healthcare plan design and contribution levels as they are, then we would have suggested that we not tie those two together. But our understanding was that since the labor unions had filed grievances in a number of cases, or in a number of the unions, against the change in the healthcare law and the contribution levels, that the plans themselves were in jeopardy, and therefore the savings were in jeopardy unless these contracts were in fact signed, or we went to court to maintain our position to be able to hold those changes. So we saw those savings as being contingent on that contract, and that's why we made that comparison.
Are you ready for the question? Yes, sir. I'm sorry. We have a microphone down here. Mr. Friesel, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First, a comment. This is a complicated matter, even for those of us who've been poring over numbers for more than a decade. And frankly, I don't mean to sound critical, but we just as a town and as a town meeting really haven't fixed this process yet. We do not have information in time. We get a complicated set of numbers whisked across a PowerPoint by the Finance Committee. I'm not blaming them. They probably had to work on this the very last minute. I was there, and I know how it is. And I've been there, and I've negotiated those contracts. I know how that is. I know how those contracts come in. I really wish we could fix this process because, frankly, we probably will take a vote tonight because we want to get out of here. But this is a very big number that's going to be with us for many, many years. And when you think about the time in which the town meeting members have to let some of these numbers sink in their head and think about them and what's in the best interest of the town, I do not believe this process is giving us the best kind of deliberation that we should be doing on behalf of the citizens of Winchester. And when you sit here in the audience and look at this, I really have to say, I don't know what the answer is. I'm not coming here saying I've got the perfect solution for this process. I don't. But I thought we were going to try to fix this a few years ago by insisting upon some kind of template of what these costs were going to be. And that template was going to be prepared enough days in time for the town meeting members to sit back and see what these numbers are. Because if someone held a quiz right now to the town meeting members, question number 1, what is the cost of these contracts over the next 3 fiscal years in total to the town? I would wager that the pass rate in this town meeting would be under 10%. And frankly, that is not how we should be doing our business. So my comment here is over. I don't like this process. We've got to improve it if we're going to get, I think, a better deliberation on these contracts by town meeting. And I don't know what it is, but hopefully the leadership can try to put a better process in place. Now, to the contracts themselves. One thing that I didn't hear from the Finance Committee, and I'd like to hear from the Finance Committee, we saw a chart from Mr. Howley's presentation that compared Winchester to a lot of the regular suspects of who we compare ourselves to on contracts. We looked rather low in comparison to that crowd. And one of the comments made by the Finance Committee is that this isn't the best deal we could get in this current economic environment, and that we should be able to do better than these contracts. I just don't know why that's true when you look at Mr. Howley's chart and see where other people have come out. So I would like to hear some comments from the Finance Committee why they think that we're doing so poorly in this negotiation and should go back to the bargaining table in comparison to those other communities. And I'd also like to hear some comment from the Finance Committee on a very serious risk. If we walk away from these contracts tonight and we don't approve them and you go back to the bargaining table, Mr. Howley is correct. The ultimate way in which you resolve these matters is arbitration and mediation. This is not the private world, this is the public union world, a unique world. And it doesn't operate like so many of us in this room think the private world does, including private union world. Doesn't work the same way. So, with that risk in mind, and I've been through those arbitrations on behalf of the town, and we don't come out very well every single time, the mediators always look to all these other communities to see what they're getting. And we've seen that chart. So we have a risk that if we reject this, we go back, we could end up at an arbitration, we could end up having the worst of all possible worlds, which is we do not get any benefit on the healthcare design. So we haven't shifted some of an uncontrolled cost to the employees. The town is still taking on most of those uncontrolled costs. And we don't get anything different. In fact, we get a worse outcome on the adjustments on wages. So I'd like to hear what kind of thought process the Finance Committee has about that.
Thank you, Mr. Friesel. For the Finance Committee, 2 questions. The first question, based on the comparative data shown with surrounding communities, what leads you to believe that Winchester can negotiate numbers below, say, Lexington, Wellesley, and the surrounding towns? That's question number 1. And number 2, could you comment on the factor of risk if we were to reject this, what that means to you and to the town?
Okay. First off, though, to the test. I don't think there's 0%. I think it's 0% would get the numbers right. There's too many numbers, there's too many factors. And yes, we would have liked to have presented page after page after page. And in fact, in my original speech that I wrote yesterday, I said, I referred to that packet that you had in your hands, which you obviously don't, because we were unable to finish it and you didn't get one from anywhere else. So as far as that's concerned, that would have been nice, but there are too many numbers, there are too many factors, and nobody knows at this point how much this is going to cost over 3 years. What's that? Okay. Nobody told us. As far as the surrounding towns, we looked at a couple. We didn't look at many. This was an arduous process. There was a lot to look at. And we looked at Lexington and Belmont and found numbers that were a lot lower than this. As far as risk is concerned, generally we do not consider risk as far as the contract is concerned. We looked at risk as far as how much the contract was going to, we didn't look at risk as far as rejecting the contract was concerned. Obviously, we understood that what we're asking you to do and voting unfavorably is risky. And we balanced that against the risk of actually getting a general override and passed while we're passing an $18 million debt exclusion override. And there's been lots of news out there that we, A, have a lot of money in the bank, and B, we look like we're draining money and we're running out of money. So in that view, we were balancing risks of an unknown contract process with an unknown general override process. It's not something we could guess any better than flipping a coin. I doubt anybody else in this room can do any better than flipping a coin for what the risk results of those two outcomes were.
Follow-up question, and then we got to go to somebody else. And yes, ma'am.
So I just want to clarify that the Finance Committee is not suggesting that the numbers that Mr. Howley used for comparison of our wage adjustments with those other communities is not accurate, that there's something in those numbers that doesn't make it apples to apples comparison. In some way, it's not accurate.
Well, he had a typo. But beyond that, we'll stipulate those numbers. We did not do a separate analysis of those numbers compared to other numbers. The two communities that we looked at, I said, were I don't think that's it. But anyway.
No, that's my slide.
Oh, okay. The two communities, as I said, we looked at, and we did not do a very good job, I admit, of looking at lots of different towns. But the two that we did look at were Concord and Belmont, and they did an adjustment to offset some of the savings in their health care plan.
Okay, Mary Ellen Landon is next.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Mr. Frizella, you did ask what the cost of the contracts were, and I do want to just put up this slide, although I didn't have the total for you. The total on the municipal side, as you go across all 4 years, is $363,589. And as far as the school contract, I'll let the school department handle the motions on what the cost is for their school wage settled agreement. And I guess I would just like to say, as your acting town manager, at this point, coming in on July 1st, it was an absolute top priority that these union contracts needed to be settled. I understand that the information is almost overwhelming. One thing I guess I'd like to say is, I apologize for the fact that the information has come to you in short notice, but the reality of the situation with the timing of each of these negotiations that we put together beginning in September and the information that needs to go through the process of town boards and commissions, we had to get Finance Committee approval. We also had to, or should I say, not approval, but at this point, but nonetheless, it has to go to the Personnel Board. The meetings have to be called. The open meeting law has changed. There's a change in the way in which we post meetings. It's now a 48-hour notice, not counting weekends. There were so many time constraints, and all I can say to you is I've done the best that I can based on the schedule and based on the communications that we've had with each of these unions. I've spent countless hours. I probably am approaching over probably 40 hours in negotiations. I felt that it was absolutely crucial that we bring these to the town for us to be able to know, even though there are costs associated with it, for us to know what that dollar amount is so that we can build the 3-year projected budget model so that you know what that override is going to be if you so choose to bring it forward. But, you know, I am in a position where all I can do is disclose the information and provide it to you as fast and as accurately as I can. I guess I also want to just mention, in Peter's comments, he mentioned that the cost of these contracts was going to impact the override. And I have to say to you, this is, although large at some respects, it's a small amount in comparison to the issues that are on the global map for the town of Winchester. I live in this community. My children go to school here. I know that the VO override and the high school feasibility study and eventually the high school construction are really big decisions. And I don't mean to minimize the contracts, but we have to settle these contracts. The consequence of doing nothing and to postpone this, quite frankly, I think would be irresponsible. And I am bringing this to you because this is truly how I feel about it. And I was really passionate about getting it done. And I know the time is tight, but I also know that we need to respect the worker. These base wages are modest at best. And I'm not quite certain what the FinCom is looking at with the comparative data, but we put that chart together. My staff went through and made the phone calls to the communities surrounding the area. The healthcare concessions are huge for us to be able to say that we're going to go to a 75-25 split immediately in year one. The benefit of that in the long term is significant. The other thing I guess I want to mention is the chart that the Finance Committee put up that had the upside down that we're going to be a loser in FY13. Technically, the problem is with healthcare is every year it goes up 10 to 12%. This is not going to go away. This is a real issue that's facing everybody, whether you're private sector or whether you're public sector. And I really feel that if we settle the contracts, we're going to be able to continually look at those plan design changes in a positive way with the unions because we met with them and we sat down and we valued them and we said, we value what you do and we're going to settle these contracts and we're going to move forward and have positive dialogue with these unions so we can get more concessions on health care. You know, I'm not saying it's going to stay at 25%. I know that that's not a reality. And the unions, I'm certain that the members realize each year that goes by, in the condition we're in, that we're going to have to continue to move those numbers up. And they're going to end up being at a 30%, contribution rate eventually.
Your time has expired.
Sorry,
do you wish more time?
I could go on and on. So anyway, nonetheless, that's some of my comments. And I did have one other really important point that I can't remember right now, but you know me, I'll be back up to tell you that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me, please don't interrupt the meeting.
I'm Jennifer Wilson from Precinct 2. Like Mr. Frizel, I don't like this process, although maybe for slightly different reasons. We get these numbers either late in the game or early in the game, and then we look at the numbers and we say, we weren't in the room. And I hear town meeting members say this, we weren't the ones doing the negotiating. We don't know what was on the table. We don't know what all of the goals were. We don't know how much worse it could have been. And so we all feel reluctant to question the judgment of the town officials whom we respect, whom we elect, whom we appoint. And so we're reluctant to vote against the number. We might like to have a scalpel and do a little surgery on the numbers, but we don't have a scalpel and we're probably not qualified to wield a scalpel. And so what I don't like about this process is that ultimately the tool that town meeting has is a sledgehammer. And I don't like wielding a sledgehammer. I don't like standing up here and saying, I think we maybe could have done a little better on these contracts. I don't like saying, well, we could have done more, so let's go ahead and approve them. And I think that that's the argument that we're being given tonight. The big reason to vote in favor of these is that if we don't, we're going to be in much worse shape. And that feels bad. That's not a vote I like to give. I'm tempted to abstain, but that feels cowardly. So I don't know. I am going to make a pitch for something that I would like to see in future negotiations, which is a different interpretation of equitable. Both on the table tonight and in what we approved last year, we saw certain levels of salary adjustment that were applied to all of the unions across the board. I know there are little tweaks here and there, maybe there's a timing tweak, but I don't think that that number correctly assesses what is equity. As it is, taking one number and applying it to a single contract treats employees inequitably within the contract. Last year, we approved a new step that gave some teachers a wage increase and others no wage increase. That wasn't equitable as to them. Maybe that was the appropriate contract. I voted in favor of that contract. But I think it's too simple to just say, let's take this number and apply it across the board. I am guessing that within even the pool of municipal employees, which I understand is different from private workers, that there is a different market that is brought to bear on different types of employees. And I question whether what the market will bear for a firefighter, and I'm making this up, I don't know what the answer is the same as what the market will bear for the DPW. And in the future, I would like to see data about what does it cost to hire and retain the various groups of employees, because maybe the right answer isn't to just take that same percentage. It feels like the path of least resistance. I'm not in the room, so I'm not trying to be critical of the people who are doing the work here, but I'm saying in the future, I would like to see a little bit more brought to bear about what is different about those unions, and is it appropriate to be looking at the same wage adjustment for all of the unions. Thank you.
Mr. Haley was next, and then Mr. Natali, and then I think we'll be ready for a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Peter Haley. I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 5. I rise to support the motion of the selectmen in support of the amounts that were being asked to fund these wage increases. I think that it's important to remember that when we look at the task before us, that labor, like anything else, exists within a market. We're going into the market to purchase services on behalf of the town. It's going to cost us something. So I think it's a little bit disingenuous to show charts which show, well, look, we're going to suffer a loss under this contract year after year. The loss is going to be $200,000 in the first year, $500,000 in the second, $700,000 in the third. In fact, it's not a loss on the contract. That's going to be our expense in what it will cost us to hire and retain these employees. And when we're looking at those numbers, it's awfully tempting to say no to $1.5 million, but I think we need to step back and look at what is the $1.5 million being applied to. Our budget on an annual basis is a little over $70 million. Our wage budget with respect to services, and we are primarily in the service business, is somewhat over $50 million. So our incremental cost to supply this labor, as we've seen from the chart that the selectmen have provided, is one, below the current market costs. It would cost us to go out and purchase that contract. Two, percentage, a very low percentage in terms of what we're being asked to approve. Lastly, and I think most importantly, is that I think it's important that we acknowledge the work that town management and the selectmen have done over the course of the last 4 years. We were, up until 2007, on a track where our healthcare costs were increasing by 10, 12, 13, 14, 15% a year. That has continued for many other of the 350 towns in the Commonwealth, but not for Winchester, because the selectmen were able to put a stop to that by joining the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association, a group of 109 other communities, bringing all the town unions into that, substantially lowering the town's costs. What these contracts now do is it formalizes that step. will avoid the cost of litigating that issue down the road, and it moves the percentages. It moves the percentages from percentages where the town's contribution is over 80% to where it goes down to 75%. Although we're being asked to approve a 3-year contract, we're not going to go backwards from that, and we're going to realize those savings not only over the 36 months of this contract, but on all those contracts down the road. If we don't approve this, we're not going to recognize those savings. So I think it's important to recognize that. Finally, we're in the service business. What we do as a community is done through the some 700 employees that we have in the school and the municipal side. In order to function as a community and to function well, we need to make sure that we have working agreements with those employees, that those employees continue to provide the same high level of services that they do, and that we exist in a positive environment. If we're in a condition where we are not approving those contracts and we're going back to the negotiating table, then the service that we're going to receive from those employees, despite their best efforts and ours, is going to be something less. And the quality of what we deliver to the 20,000 residents of the community is going to be something less. This is not a perfect contract, and it's tempting to say, I'm going to put my foot down and say no. But this is not the place to do that. This is the product of negotiations over time. It's a substantial value for the town and the community. It does deliver a positive value to us. We owe it not only to those who have negotiated on our behalf, but also to those 700 people who provide the services on our behalf. This is the right thing to do, and I would ask you to join me in supporting these motions.
Mrs. Filio and the gentleman in the aisle here, and then we'll take the vote. Mrs. Filio, why don't you wait till the train goes by and the mic comes? Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like town meeting members to remember when they take this vote tonight, the entire thing that's before us is town meeting. You've got the unions, contracts, which are very important, I understand. You're going to have the VO, debt exclusion, with the Parkhurst renovation. You're going to have the feasibility study and the potential for the high school renovation, which would be 50 to 70 million, maybe. And you have flood mitigation coming down the road. It's a lot over there, and the operating budget override. Just keep it all in perspective. Remember when you vote.
Thank you. The gentleman, I don't get your name, sir, but if you tell us.
Good evening. Ralph Safarian.
Oh, yes, sir.
Hi. I'll try and be brief and just say that I think we're all emotionally and intellectually prepared to make some tough decisions, and I feel that the leadership has briefed us very well over the past weeks on that, and I feel comfortable with that part of it. Where I'm confused is some of the data is difficult for me to follow because my packet and what I see presented does not always match. So I'm finding that to be one of the more difficult parts of this, although I feel like I'm prepared to make a decision, and I believe that would help us. And that may be addressing the process question that Mr. Friesel brought up earlier, but I think that would be very helpful for me, and I just would like to suggest that, and that could potentially be a quick fix, if you will. So even if we were to have the same slides that are shown, I believe we can be more expeditious. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a good comment, as Mr. Friesel's comments and others here about the process. Mr. Natali, I sorry I neglected you. I called you once. You are the last speaker. Thank you very much. Oh, you're not there.
Thank you. The last several speakers have made it plain to me that a town meeting is really an anachronism. We're just not competent to make a judgment on these very complex financial issues. As one of the previous speakers said, she wasn't in the room. Well, you would have to be. All of us would have to be in the room, to really vote competently.
Move the mic away from your mouth a little,
Thank
please.
you.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But I do have a couple of questions. There is about a 10% unemployment rate out there. That 10% is all 100% in the private sector, 0% in the public sector. Public employees have 100% job security. I'd like to ask a couple of questions. One, does that 100% job security enter into the negotiations? And in these economic times, I think it ought to. What's the answer to that?
Okay, thank you. The question for the, I guess, the selectmen, does the issue of job security and the consideration of that in the public sector affect your collective bargaining negotiations?
Mr. Moderator, in answer to the question, the employees do not have 100% job security. In fact, there's a layoff procedure that's negotiated as part of these negotiations and has remained in place for several years. The employee rate goes up and down like the economy, and there have been layoffs in the past, and there'll continue to be layoffs. They're all covered under the collective bargaining process.
Thank you.
That brings me to my second question. Then in the last couple of years during this recession, has there been any reduction in the numbers of public employees in Winchester?
Okay, that's the last question, and the question is, over the last several years, have we had any reductions in the number of employees in the town of Winchester? With the exception of the town manager. Yeah. Sorry, just too good a line. Let me appoint some tellers while they're doing that. Mr. Leland, would you be a teller? Mr. Moore, would you be a teller, sir? Betsy Krager, would you be a teller for your section? And Mr. Johnson, would you be a teller? Thank you very much. Would you stand and raise your right hands? Would you faithfully perform your duties as tellers to this town meeting? Please say aye. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. No, sir. The debate is closed. I announced that earlier. You going to answer that question for Mr. Natale?
In response to your question, Mr. Natale, over the last several years, we have had a couple of positions, the Recreation Department, the DPW, and I just lost my other thought. The freeze. We also have implemented the hiring freeze under Mr. Kleckner, and each of the employment appointments that come before the town manager or the Board of Selectmen are considered very carefully. I understand that the environment is not for me to just simply put those positions in simply because they're funded in the budget.
Okay, the question comes on the motion number 1. It moved and seconded that we approve the Police Senior Superior Officers Association wage adjustments in accordance with the motion on page 1. Majority vote required. All those in favor of following the recommendations of the Board of Selectmen, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it, unless that's challenged. Having no one challenge it, the motion passes. We turn now to motion number 2. It's moved and seconded that Schedule 8 of the compensation plan be accepted in accordance with the recommendation of the Personnel Board, Appendix B, and this is for the Policeman Association wage adjustments. This is the non-superior officers. And that was explained in Mr. Haley's, and the Finance Committee has recommended unfavorably on that. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Motion 3. This is moved and seconded that Schedule 7 of the compensation plan, and this is for the Municipal DPW Workers Union. And it's been moved and seconded by the selectmen that Schedule 7 and that union wage adjustment be approved. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to motion 4. It's moved and seconded that Schedule 11 of the compensation plan be accepted. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is for the custodial union. And same thing recommended by the Board of Selectmen, opposed by the Finance Committee. All those in favor of motion 4, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Motion 5. Motion 5, this schedule is for the municipal clerical workers, and seconded that Schedule 1 of the compensation plan for municipal clerical workers union wage adjustments be approved. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it, motion carries. Article 6. It's moved and seconded that, that the town, let's see, motion 6. Motion 6, it's moved and seconded that the, wait 1 second, Winchester clerical workers. Oh, yes, I got it. Now, motion 6, ladies and gentlemen, is a little bit different. We approved in motion 5 the motion for the Winchester clerical workers. And the idea was on most of these things that we passed so far, the money is coming from inside the budget from 2011. So whatever we appropriated, they're going to have to pay the raises without any additional funds. That's not true for the Winchester clerical workers because there's insufficient money in the various budgets. So what the motion is that it's moved and seconded that the town transfer the sum of $4,797 from the fiscal year 2011 building department account, other expenses, to partially fund the increases in wages for employees in Local 888, the Winchester Clerical Union, and then there is listed 6 accounts. And so what the Board of Selectmen is doing is they don't have the money in the right accounts, but they do have money in the building department where they had an employee they planned to hire and have not hired, and they're taking that money and distributing it into the assessors department, the treasurer's department, town clerk, health department, building department, taking that money so that they'll have the money to pay the clerical workers raises without tapping free cash. All those in favor of motion number 6, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Motion 7. This is for the non-union personnel. And, okay, and this is, it's moved and seconded that Schedule 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the compensation plan be accepted in accordance with the approval of the Board of Selectmen and the recommendations of the Personnel Board for the municipal non-union personnel wage adjustments for fiscal year 2011. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. And ladies and gentlemen, pardon? Don't be shy. Let's see, motion 8. Motion 8 is the transfer of $7,400 from that same building department account where there's a surplus to pay for the non-union personnel in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different budget items. So it's moved and seconded that the town transfer the sum of $7,450 from the building department account number 1413, other expenses, to the following accounts, and the accounts are listed in the motion on page 5. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to motion 9A and 9B. And 9A and 9B is for the Winchester firefighters. And it's my understanding that the Finance Committee wants to postpone this motion.
Well, we had some questions about it and did not have time to review it in light of those questions.
Well, you can ask questions right now if you'd like.
Okay.
So I'll read the motion. It's moved and seconded that the Schedule 10 of the compensation plan be accepted in accordance with the recommendations of the Personnel Board as set forth in Appendix G for the Firefighters Union.
Yeah, the two questions that we had were, we understood that the firefighters' contract was going to be on par with the police budget, but according to the information we got from the fire department, year over year they're 1% larger. And the other fact is that it appears to us that this contract is being paid for, a contract that ends in FY10 is being paid for out of an unallocated budget in FY11. Those were our two issues.
Is that a question? Or was that a comment? I didn't hear the question.
The question was, how is it are we paying for a contract that ends in FY10 with unallocated wages for FY11, and we need to understand, we'd like to understand why it is that a contract that was supposed to be on par with another contract is in fact 1% larger per year.
Okay. Chair recognizes the town controller, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I did discuss that particular motion with our outside auditors using 2011 monies to pay for 2010 wages, and they said that was an acceptable practice and we could move forward and do that. But I have to clear that with our outside auditors, Sullivan and Rogers.
Okay, the first motion is moved and seconded that Schedule 10 of the compensation plan be approved for the firefighters union. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it, the motion carries. And then motion 9B transfers $502,862.98 from various accounts of the town, as described by the controller, to provide funds for this motion. All those in favor of that motion 9B, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have. I'm sorry. The ayes have it. Now 9C is for the same firefighters contract, but this is for the 11 to 12 years. I apologize for all these motions, but this is the only way that they can individually vote all of these, and it's this is the first time, I'm going to guess this now, but it's the first time in over 10 years that we will have negotiated and authorized contracts for all the unions, and it's all happening at one time, which is extremely unusual, as Mr. Friesel pointed out. So 9C is, it's moved and seconded that we approve Schedule 10, which is the firefighters union wage increase for the years 11 to 12. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Motion 9D, page 2 in the latest handout, it's moved and seconded that the town transfer $23,800 from free cash to fund the wages for employees in Local 1564. All those in favor, yes, sir, I'm sorry. No, this is coming, it's not a transfer, it's an expenditure of free cash. When the town meeting votes on an expenditure of funds, unless you're taking it out of one of our stabilization funds, like the building stabilization fund, that requires a 2/3. And if you're going to raise the money by bonding, like the Vincent Owen School coming up in the next motion, that has to take a 2/3 vote because you're going to bond it. Okay? So this is transferring $23,800 from free cash. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. That brings us to Article 10, and this is the education. And it's moved and seconded that the sum of $133,560 be appropriated from free cash to the fiscal year 2011 school budget under Article 3110 to fund the costs of collective bargaining. Now, if you notice, ladies and gentlemen, and that in Oh, 2013. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Mary Ellen. The chair forgot to vote 9E and motion 9E. And the firefighters will be on me like white on rice here. It's 9E is the 2013 contract. We did the 2011 and 12, so that's the last one. It's moved and seconded, and that's Section 10 of the compensation plan be accepted in accordance with the recommendations of the Personnel Board for firefighters' union wage adjustments for fiscal year 2013. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it, the motion carries. So that brings us back to 10, which is to fund the school budget, to fund for the schools from free cash $133,560, which is the amount of money they need in order to pay the increases for this year. Now, I should say, if you notice that carefully, you notice that we don't approve the agreement that the school has done like we did with all the others. And we've had some very famous debates over the years. The last one starred Mr. Friesel versus Mr. Haley one night about 8 years over this issue. And the question arises is to whether or not the town meeting has to approve a collective bargaining agreement by the school committee. And the answer to that question is no. And I wait to the town council to correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's under the Massachusetts state law, the school committee has the ability to sign collective bargaining agreements on their own. And the only reason they bring that here, and we're entitled to see it, debate it, look at it, and decide whether we like it, but you can't reject it. And so the town, that contract is signed already, and so you could refuse to fund it, but they would just have to take it out of other sources if that was the case. And especially going forward, the agreement will be any funds that are required would be included in next year's budget, the year after that. So this is a request of $133,560 from free cash. Did the Finance Committee make a recommendation on that transfer? And what was it, sir? They recommend unfavorable action, sorry. Further on the question. All those in favor of that transfer, the appropriation of $133,560, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, that completes Article 3, and it completes the first half of town meeting tonight. And we'll have recess right now. We'll meet back here in 15 minutes, and starting on the Vincent Owen School. Thank you very much.
I'm Alan Iden, and you are watching session number 3 of Winchester's Fall Town Meeting. Okay, am I on? I think I am. All right. Okay, one article has been taken up tonight, and that is Article 3, the recommendations of the personnel boards for salary and wage adjustments for the town employees. We heard from the chairman of the personnel board that said that these contracts will resolve all the grievances that have been lodged against the town over its changes in health care, the way consolidating health care plans. He said they are, quote, modest wage adjustments compared to other towns. And after a short technical break, because of some, if you were watching, some sound issues within the auditorium, we got back in a session and heard from Tom Howley, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and the presenter, as these were brought forward by the Board of Selectmen. He said this completed all the outstanding collective bargaining agreements that were facing the town, commenting especially on the fire department contracts, firefighters contracts that expired in June of 2007. He said all the agreements approved tonight will be, or funded tonight, will be good through 2013. It's important to note these agreements have been negotiated and signed, and that town meeting is merely being asked to fund these agreements, which of course town meeting members could refuse to fund it, which would mean they'd have to go back to the bargaining table. So the question he asked, rhetorical question, was why agree to any wage increases in this economy? And the answer, Mr. Howley said, was that if the town does not, mediation will kick in, and the bond rating of the town might be jeopardized as a result. The goodwill of the employees is essential, he said, in the years ahead to ensure cooperation in some of the hard decisions that will be coming along. And He put up a chart comparing wage increases to comparable towns, showing that Winchester's was generally modest in comparison to the towns that we usually compare ourselves to. He said in fiscal year 11, the town has seen $838,000 in health care savings because of a planned consolidation and planned consolidations among the different departments in the town, and a higher contribution rates among the town's employees. He said that this was a contentious agreement when the town unilaterally decided to put one health plan forward for all town employees, and there were a lot of grievances filed by various unions. And he said as a result of this agreement, if it is funded, all the grievances will be withdrawn, and the town also would realize the savings in this, and also potentially $100,000 to $150,000 in legal fees that would be necessary to defend this plan. He said the impact on the he showed some charts of the impact on the wages and the potential capital projects that are going to be considered also tonight, the Vincent Owens School and a feasibility study on the Winchester High School, showing an average tax bill in fiscal year 2010 of $8,778. By fiscal year 20, 10 years from now, would be $12,221, about a $4,000 increase, almost $4,000 increase. Well, the Finance Committee recommended unfavorable action on all of them except the fire contract. He said that the Finance Committee said it trades health care savings for wage increases, and there is no net gain to the town, in their words. Wade Welch, Town Council, spoke next. He talked about the two different types of negotiations, the public safety negotiations and the municipal negotiations. He said all the contracts were in mediation, and that he warned that if the town meeting rejects funding for the contracts, all options, all negotiated items are back on the table. He said an arbitrator, a potential arbitrator, is not likely to accept the town's somewhat radical health care plan, and that it would have the town revert back to the old plan, again losing a lot of potential savings. He pointed out that town meeting cannot reject a piece of a settlement, that town meeting has to accept all of it or reject all of it. And his comment was that the health plan is not a savings, it is, in his words, cost avoidance. And he said it's his considered opinion that an arbitrated result would be worse for the town than the negotiations. The Finance Committee said that the selectmen did not look at the risk to the town, quote unquote. Mary Ellen Lannon, the acting town manager, said it is when she came into as the interim town manager on July 1st, she felt it was absolutely essential to wrap up all the negotiations with all the different unions in town. Several town meeting members commented that they didn't like the process, saying that they were not adequately informed, that some of the figures were just put before them tonight. They did not like the late notification, but as one other town meeting member put it, town meeting members were not at the table during the negotiations. Town meeting member Peter Haley said that, spoke in favor of approving the contracts, saying that it formalizes the health plan and realizes future savings. So if you're just watching, there were about 15 different motions, and they were all passed on a voice vote, not unanimously. You could hear some nays in the audience, but the ayes took it for all of those 15 or so motions and all of the contracts. So basically what is happening now is all the town's contracts have been negotiated, are being funded, and as we heard, they're actually, all the agreements will be good through fiscal year 2013. So all grievances have been settled. The healthcare, the town's somewhat innovative health care plan has been put on the table and approved, and cannot go back to arbitration. So that's where we stand. One article tonight. Coming up after the break will be request for funding a new Vincent Owens School and a study for the Winchester High School, where we are right now. So stay tuned for the second half of Winchester's third session of Fall Town Meeting, and I'll be back with a wrap-up at the end of this session.